News 1. The Life and Legacy of Christine Jorgensen. Introduction. Christine Jorgensen's name is etched in the annals of transgender history as one of the first people in the world to undergo gender confirmation surgery and make her transition a public spectacle. Born George William Jorgensen Jr. in 1926, her story became widely known in 1952 when she traveled to Denmark to undergo a series of pioneering surgeries that would transform her from a man to a woman in both her body and her spirit. Her transition made waves, with the media sensationalizing the story and thrusting her into the limelight. Jorgensen's bravery, public visibility, and advocacy for transgender people would influence the course of the transgender rights movement, challenging societal norms about gender and identity, and paving the way for future generations of transgender individuals. Jorgensen's journey was not only one of personal transformation, but also one of cultural significance. At a time when gender roles were rigid and understanding of transgender issues was practically non-existent, her life symbolized the pursuit of authenticity in a society that did not yet know how to comprehend it. This article will trace the arc of Christine Jorgensen's life from her early years growing up in New York to her revolutionary transition and the lasting impact of her story on transgender visibility and rights. Early life and background. Christine Jorgensen was born on May 30, 1926, in the Bronx, New York. The child of Danish immigrants, Jorgensen was raised in a working-class family, where she began life as George William Jorgensen Jr. She had two brothers, and, from an early age, Christine displayed an inclination toward femininity, which did not align with the traditional expectations placed on her as a boy. She was often described as more delicate and reserved, and her affinity for things like music and art, traditionally seen as more feminine activities, set her apart from other boys. From a young age, Christine was aware that her sense of self did not match her assigned gender. The disconnect between her internal feelings and the external expectations placed on her would haunt her throughout her youth. In school, she faced difficulties with her gender identity and struggled to fit in with other boys, often feeling isolated. While Christine's family was supportive, it was clear that her journey to understanding herself would not be easy. The world around her simply didn't have the vocabulary or understanding of what it meant to experience gender dysphoria. During her teenage years, Jorgensen's sense of alienation deepened. In the 1930s and 1940s, there was no medical or social framework to help Christine navigate her feelings. Being transgender wasn't even a concept that was widely known or accepted. But Christine's feelings of being trapped in the wrong body persisted, and she felt that she could not reconcile the disparity between her inner self and the outward presentation forced upon her by society. Education and early interests. After graduating from high school in 1945, Christine attended the New York City College of Music, pursuing a degree in music. She was deeply passionate about her studies, though she remained internally conflicted about her gender identity. Christine also began to explore various academic interests, including psychology, and developed a deep interest in the complexities of human behavior. In her college years, Christine tried to conform to societal norms and even engaged in some romantic relationships with women. However, she soon realized that these relationships, much like her feelings of social discomfort, were part of the larger struggle with her gender identity. She eventually grew to understand that her romantic and sexual attractions were secondary to her deeper desire for a change in her gender expression. The social and cultural environment of the 1940s and 1950s was one of rigid gender roles, and any deviation from the norm was often seen as a sign of mental illness or disorder. It wasn't until after she served in the U.S. Army that she began to more seriously consider what her options were in terms of medical treatment, military service, and early transition thoughts. In 1945, Christine enlisted in the U.S. Army during World War II, and she served for over a year before her discharge. While in the military, she continued to feel increasingly disconnected from her male identity. However, The military experience provided Christine with a unique opportunity for self-reflection. She was stationed in the United States and worked as a medical technician, where she was exposed to a variety of medical practices. During this time, she also became more aware of the emerging field of gender-affirming surgeries. Although Christine felt trapped in her male body, she was unable to find the resources or support to explore gender transition in the way that she would later. There were no medical professionals in the United States who were known to perform the kind of surgeries that Christine would eventually undergo. However, she began to hear stories from other service members and individuals who had sought similar procedures in Europe. And this gave her hope for the first time in years that she could change her life. It was around this time that she began researching gender-confirming surgery in earnest. Journey to Denmark. The decision to transition. In the early 1950s, the United States had very little in the way of gender-affirming medical care, so Christine made the bold decision to travel to Denmark, where Dr. Christian Hamburger was one of the first surgeons to specialize in gender confirmation surgery. In 1952, after extensive consultations and preparations, Jorgensen underwent the surgeries necessary to transition from male to female. The surgeries themselves were groundbreaking at the time, with only limited medical knowledge available about the procedure. The process was lengthy and involved, requiring multiple stages. Christine Jorgensen's decision to undergo these surgeries marked a watershed moment not only in her life but also in medical history, as the field of transgender care was still in its infancy. After undergoing the surgeries, Christine began hormone therapy, which allowed her to further feminize her body. However, the process was not without its challenges. During this period, she grappled with the emotional complexity of transitioning, knowing that once her transformation became public, she would be thrust into the public eye. Nevertheless, Christine's decision was an act of profound courage. She had no idea that her story would make history, but she was committed to the pursuit of self-actualization. Christine Jorgensen's return to America and media frenzy. Christine's return to the United States in 1953 was met with an overwhelming media frenzy. The story of a person undergoing such a significant and rare medical transformation was both sensational and mysterious to the public. The media, hungry for a dramatic story, latched onto the narrative of Christine's gender change with much excitement, and newspapers and magazines across the country carried stories and images of Christine's transition. The press coverage was a mixture of fascination and voyeurism, often framing Christine's journey in terms of her transformation from a man to a woman, with little understanding or respect for the nuance of her personal experience. However, this widespread media attention also forced the American public to confront the notion of gender identity in a way that had never been done before. Though the coverage was at times invasive and reductive, it played a pivotal role in bringing the idea of gender diversity into the public consciousness. Christine became an overnight celebrity, appearing on television and in interviews, where she was asked personal questions about her surgeries, her sexuality, and her identity. This level of media attention was unprecedented for a transgender person, and Christine's willingness to share her story made her a trailblazer in many ways. While the attention was often difficult to navigate, it was also a source of empowerment for Christine, who was determined to be open about her experiences and advocate for the transgender community. Life after transition. Christine Jorgensen's life after her transition was both fulfilling and challenging. Despite the public fascination with her story, Jorgensen faced many personal struggles. She had to come to terms with the fact that while her physical transformation was complete, her social acceptance was still an ongoing challenge. She moved to California, where she worked as an entertainer, performing in clubs and theaters, and later appeared in television shows. While she enjoyed some professional success, Christine was also deeply affected by the negative press and the societal stigma that still surrounded her. At times, she struggled with her relationships and felt marginalized by the very society that had once celebrated her transformation. She had to navigate the complex intersections of public and private life, often feeling the weight of the world's expectations on her shoulders. But in the face of these challenges, she remained a staunch advocate for transgender rights. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Christine continued to speak out about the rights of transgender people. She gave interviews and lectures, encouraging acceptance and understanding of transgender individuals and the difficulties they faced. As the years went by, she became one of the earliest transgender activists, helping to shape the narrative of transgender rights in America. Christine Jorgensen's legacy. Christine Jorgensen's story was an important moment in the history of transgender rights. She was not just a medical pioneer, but also an advocate who gave voice to transgender people at a time when few were speaking out. Jorgensen's life was a testament to the courage it takes to live authentically and to confront a society that was often hostile to difference. While there were many challenges in her life, Christine's willingness to speak openly about her experiences helped to lay the groundwork for the later transgender rights movement. Her story has inspired countless individuals who struggle with their gender identity to seek help, pursue medical transition, and live their truth. Today, Jorgensen is remembered not just for her medical transition, but for her role in changing the discourse surrounding gender identity in America and around the world. Conclusion. Christine Jorgensen's journey from George William Jorgensen Jr. to one of the most famous transgender women in history was not just a personal transformation, it was a cultural landmark that opened the doors to understanding gender in a more nuanced and compassionate way. Her legacy continues to inspire, and her story remains a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle for transgender rights and visibility. Christine Jorgensen is remembered as a trailblazer who risked everything to live as her authentic self, laying the groundwork for the transgender community that followed. News 2. April Ashley, A Life of Resilience and Transformation. Introduction. April Ashley, born George Jameson in 1935 in Liverpool, England, stands as a monumental figure in the history of transgender rights and visibility. Her journey from a working-class background to becoming one of the first Britons to undergo gender-affirming surgery and later a celebrated model and activist is a testament to resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity in a world that often demanded conformity. Early life and struggles. Raised in the impoverished dock area of Liverpool, Ashley's early life was marked by hardship. She was assigned male at birth, but felt a profound disconnect with her assigned gender from a young age. This internal conflict led to deep feelings of isolation and depression. At 14, seeking escape, she joined the Merchant Navy, but her struggles continued. After a suicide attempt, she was dishonorably discharged and subsequently institutionalized, where she underwent electroconvulsive therapy and was subjected to testosterone treatments in an attempt to cure her gender identity. Journey to self-discovery. Determined to live authentically, Ashley moved to London in the mid-1950s, where she began cross-dressing and exploring her gender identity. Her journey took her to Paris, where she joined the cast of the renowned drag cabaret at Le Carrousel Theatre. It was during this time that she adopted the name April Ashley, symbolizing her new identity and the beginning of her transformation. Gender-affirming surgery in Casablanca. In 1960, at the age of 25, Ashley underwent gender-affirming surgery in Casablanca, Morocco, performed by Dr. Georges Bourreau. The procedure was groundbreaking and came with significant risks, but Ashley was determined to align her physical appearance with her gender identity. The surgery was successful, marking a pivotal moment in her life and in the history of transgender healthcare. Modeling career and public life. Upon returning to the UK, Ashley began her career as a model. She was featured in British Vogue, photographed by renowned photographer David Bailey, and appeared in the film The Road to Hong Kong alongside Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. Her beauty and poise captivated the public, and she became a symbol of elegance and grace. However, her success was short-lived. Outing and legal challenges. In 1961, A friend betrayed Ashley's trust by revealing her transgender history to the press. The Sunday People newspaper published an exposé outing her as transgender. This revelation led to public scrutiny and professional setbacks. In 1963, she married aristocrat Arthur Corbett, but their union faced legal challenges. In 1970, their marriage was annulled in a landmark case, Corbett v. Corbett, where the court ruled that Ashley remained legally male, despite her gender-affirming surgery. This decision denied her the right to be legally recognized as female and highlighted the legal and societal obstacles faced by transgender individuals. Later life and advocacy. After the annulment, Ashley withdrew from the public eye and relocated to the United States. She returned to the UK in 2005, following the passage of the Gender Recognition Act, which allowed transgender individuals to obtain legal recognition of their gender. In 2012, she was appointed a member of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, for her services to transgender equality, acknowledging her contributions to raising awareness and advocating for transgender rights. Legacy and impact. April Ashley's life and work have left an indelible mark on the transgender community and society at large. She was a trailblazer, challenging societal norms and legal frameworks to live as her authentic self. Her courage in the face of adversity has inspired countless individuals and has been instrumental in advancing the rights and recognition of transgender people in the UK and beyond. Conclusion. April Ashley's journey is a powerful narrative of transformation, resilience, and advocacy. From her early struggles in Liverpool to her pioneering role in the transgender rights movement, her life story serves as a beacon of hope and a call to action for continued progress in the fight for equality and recognition for transgender individuals. I have tried to highlight some important issues on behalf of our channel. Please support me. I am ending today's video by inviting you to watch the next video. Goodbye.